My name is Miranda. I am 32 years old, and I watched my own sister hide me away at her engagement party like I was something to be ashamed of. Nathan and I have been married for 8 years. We live a simple life, and I have always loved my sister despite everything. But that night at her engagement party, we were seated in a hidden corner behind a pillar, because we were not rich enough for her fancy guests. Then her fiancé walked over to meet Nathan, and her face turned completely pale. Before I tell you what happened next, I would love to know where you are joining me from today. Leave your city or country in the comments below. If you have ever been underestimated by your own family, tap that like button. And make sure you subscribe, because this story has a twist that changed everything. Let me take you back to the beginning so you understand how we got here. I grew up in a quiet suburb outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Our family was what you would call middle class. My father worked as an accountant for a local firm, and my mother taught 3rd grade at the elementary school down the street. We lived in a modest 3-bedroom house with a small backyard where my mother grew tomatoes every summer. I have a younger sister named Brooke. She is 3 years younger than me, and from the moment she was born, she had a way of capturing everyone's attention. Brooke was beautiful in that effortless way that made people stop and stare. She had big blue eyes, perfect blonde hair, and a personality that could light up any room she walked into. Me, I was the quiet one. I preferred curling up with a good book over going to parties. I loved drawing and painting, spending hours in my room creating worlds on canvas. While Brooke was out cheerleading and winning homecoming queen, I was in the art room after school, perfectly content in my own company. Our parents never explicitly favored one of us over the other. But Brooke had this way of making everything about her. If I got an A on a test, Brooke would study twice as hard to get an A+. If I mentioned a boy I liked, Brooke would somehow end up dating his older, more popular brother. Everything was a competition to her, even when I was not competing. I remember one Christmas when we were teenagers. I had saved up my babysitting money for months to buy my mother a beautiful scarf. When I gave it to her, she smiled and thanked me. But then Brooke handed over her gift, a designer purse she had convinced our father to help her buy. The way our mother's eyes lit up made my heart sink just a little. That was Brooke, always needing to be the best, the most impressive, the center of attention. I learned early on that it was easier to just let her have her moments. When she wanted the bigger bedroom, I said okay. When she wanted to borrow my car for prom, I handed over the keys. When she took credit for ideas that were mine, I stayed silent. It is okay, let Brooke have this one. That became my motto. But Brooke never saw my stepping back as an act of love. She saw it as a victory. Every time I let her win, she believed she had actually beaten me, and that belief only made her want to compete harder. Things changed for me when I went to college. I enrolled at the University of Pennsylvania to study graphic design. For the first time in my life, I was somewhere Brooke was not. I could be myself without constantly being compared to my more glamorous sister. It was during my sophomore year that I met Nathan. He was in my Introduction to Computer Science class, a required course I was dreading. I walked in on the first day and saw this tall, quiet guy sitting in the back row. He had messy brown hair glasses that kept sliding down his nose, and he was wearing a plain gray t-shirt that had seen better days. We got paired together for a semester-long project, and at first I thought he was just shy. But as we spent more time together, I realized Nathan was not shy at all. He was thoughtful. He listened more than he talked, and when he did speak, it was always something worth hearing. Nathan told me about his dream of starting his own technology company someday. He talked about algorithms and software development with the same passion I had for art. His eyes would light up when he explained his ideas, and even though I barely understood half of what he was saying, I loved watching him get excited. What I loved most about Nathan was his humility. He was brilliant, genuinely brilliant, but he never acted like it. He did not need to prove himself to anyone. He was content being exactly who he was. We started dating in our junior year. It happened gradually, naturally, like we had always been heading toward each other. By the time we graduated, I knew I wanted to spend my life with him. Brooke met Nathan during our senior year when she came to visit campus. She was a freshman at a different school, already making a name for herself in the sorority scene. When I introduced her to my boyfriend, she looked him up and down with barely concealed disappointment. "He seems nice," she said later, her tone making it clear that nice was not a compliment. "But is he really ambitious enough for you, Miranda? He just seems so, I do not know, ordinary." I told her that ordinary was exactly what I wanted. She rolled her eyes and changed the subject. Nathan and I got married the summer after graduation. It was a small ceremony in my parents' backyard. I wore my grandmother's dress, and Nathan wore a suit he bought on sale. Our rings were simple gold bands that we picked out together at a local jeweler. The whole wedding probably cost less than some people spend on a single piece of furniture. But it was perfect. It was us. We bought a small house in the suburbs, a cozy 2-bedroom place with a porch swing and a garden where I planted flowers every spring. We paid the mortgage every month, slowly chipping away at it. Nathan got a job at a tech company while working on his own ideas at night. I started doing freelance graphic design work, which let me set my own hours. We drove an old Toyota Camry that Nathan had bought used during college. We cooked dinner at home most nights. Our vacations were road trips to national parks, sleeping in a tent under the stars. We did not have much, but we had each other, and that was more than enough. What our family and friends did not know was that Nathan's side project had grown into something much bigger. The software he developed in our spare bedroom had caught the attention of some major investors. Within 3 years of starting Nexus Technologies, Nathan's company was worth more than I could have ever imagined. But we never changed how we lived. Nathan said he did not start the company to buy fancy things. He started it because he loved solving problems. The money was just a byproduct. So we kept our small house, we kept our old car, we kept our simple life, and we kept our success to ourselves. Nathan valued his privacy above almost everything else. He hated the idea of people treating him differently because of his bank account. He wanted to be judged by his character, not his net worth. So we made a conscious decision to live below our means and keep a low profile. Our families knew Nathan worked in tech. They assumed he was a regular software developer, maybe making a decent salary. That was fine with us. We never corrected them. Looking back, maybe that was a mistake. Because when Brooke looked at us all, she saw was a couple who could not keep up with her expensive tastes. She saw the old car, the small house, the simple clothes, and she made her judgments accordingly. Little did she know that the brother-in-law she dismissed as ordinary was about to turn her perfect engagement party completely upside down. 6 months before the engagement party that would change everything, Brooke called our family group chat with big news. She had met someone. His name was Preston Whitmore III. Yes, the third. That alone should tell you what kind of family he came from. Preston was 35 years old, 5 years older than Brooke. His family had been wealthy for generations. His grandfather founded one of the most successful banks in Connecticut, and his father had turned that fortune into an even larger empire through real estate investments. They had a family compound in Greenwich, a ski chalet in Aspen, and a summer house in the Hamptons. Preston himself worked at a prestigious hedge fund in Manhattan. He wore custom suits, drove a Porsche, and had a watch collection worth more than most people's houses. Brooke met him at a charity gala. She was working as an event planner at the time, organizing these fancy functions for wealthy donors. When Preston walked in, she later told me she knew her life was about to change. And change it did. Within weeks, Brooke was sending us photos of her new lifestyle. Preston's penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Dinners at restaurants where a single meal cost more than our monthly grocery budget. Weekend trips to places I had only seen in magazines. Finally, she announced during one family video call, "I found someone who matches my ambition." That stung a little, though I tried not to show it. The implication was clear. Nathan and I had settled for less. We were not ambitious. We were not successful. We were just ordinary people, living ordinary lives. 3 months after they started dating, Brooke brought Preston home to meet our parents. I remember that day clearly. Nathan and I drove to our parents' house, curious to meet the man who had swept my sister off her feet. When we pulled up in our Camry, there was a sleek black Porsche already in the driveway. We walked into the living room, and there was Preston. He was handsome in that polished, preppy way. Perfect hair, perfect teeth, expensive clothes. He stood when we entered, and I noticed him glance around our parents' modest home with a look that was hard to read. It might have been curiosity. It might have been judgment. "You must be Miranda," he said, shaking my hand briefly. "And Nathan, right? Brooke has told me about you. All good things, I hope, I replied with a smile. He did not really answer, just nodded vaguely. So what do you do? Nathan Preston asked, already sounding a bit bored. I work in tech, Nathan said simply. Preston raised an eyebrow. Oh, IT support or something. Something like that, Nathan replied. I caught the flash of dismissal in Preston's eyes. He had already categorized my husband as someone not worth knowing, someone beneath his social circle. Brooke, sensing the tension, quickly changed the subject to her favorite topic, herself. The rest of the afternoon was a showcase of everything Preston could provide: his family connections, his financial success, his plans to take Brooke on a European vacation. Brooke hung on his every word, her eyes sparkling with a satisfaction I had never seen before. She had finally found her prize. 3 months after that meeting, Brooke called us all on video chat. She was practically bouncing with excitement, holding up her left hand to show off a ring that could have doubled as a small weapon. Preston proposed at the top of the Eiffel Tower, she squealed. Can you believe it? It was so romantic. The ring was massive. Later I found out it was a 5-carat diamond set in platinum, the kind of ring that comes with its own insurance policy. Our parents were overjoyed. They congratulated Brooke, asked about wedding plans, and marveled at how beautiful the ring was. I congratulated her too, genuinely happy that my sister had found someone she loved. But then came the comment that felt like a slap. This ring alone costs more than your entire wedding, Miranda Brooke said, laughing like it was a joke. Nathan reached under the table and squeezed my hand. I forced a smile and said nothing. Brooke continued oblivious to the hurt she had caused. We are having the engagement party at Whitmore Country Club. It is going to be the event of the year. Only the best people will be there. Only the best people. I wondered where Nathan and I fell on that list. Over the next few weeks, Brooke threw herself into planning the engagement party. She hired professional event planners, florists, and caterers. She agonized over invitation fonts and napkin colors. Every detail had to be perfect. What she did not do was ask for my help. When our mother was invited to help choose flowers, I waited for my invitation. It never came. When Brooke posted photos of venue visits on social media, I was not in any of them. Finally, I worked up the courage to call her. Is there anything I can help with for the party? I asked. I would love to be involved. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Oh, that is sweet of you, Miranda, but I have got professional planners handling everything. Your taste is a bit... She paused, searching for the right word, simple for this kind of event. But thanks for offering. I hung up, feeling like I had been punched in the stomach. Maybe she is just stressed, Nathan said when I told him. Planning a big party is a lot of work. Maybe I agreed. But deep down, I knew the truth. Brooke was already distancing herself from us. In her new world of country clubs and hedge funds, her ordinary sister and her tech support husband did not quite fit the image she was trying to project. I just had no idea how far she was willing to go to keep up appearances. The day of the engagement party arrived on a crisp Saturday in October. The leaves were turning golden and red, and the sky was that perfect shade of blue that makes everything look like a postcard. I spent hours getting ready, which is unusual for me. I picked out a navy blue cocktail dress that I had bought specifically for the occasion. It was not designer, but it was elegant and flattering. I did my makeup carefully, styled my hair in soft waves, and put on the pearl earrings Nathan had given me for our anniversary. Nathan wore his nicest suit, a charcoal gray ensemble that fit him perfectly. He was not one for fashion, but he looked handsome in a classic, understated way. You look beautiful, he said, kissing my forehead as I checked my reflection one last time. You do not look so bad yourself, I replied, straightening his tie. We got into our Camry and headed toward the Whitmore Country Club. The drive took about 45 minutes, and with each mile I felt my anxiety grow. I wanted things to go well. I wanted to support my sister, to be happy for her. But something in my gut told me this evening was not going to be easy. I hope Brooke is happy today, I said quietly, watching the suburban houses give way to rolling hills and manicured estates. Nathan reached over and squeezed my hand. You always think the best of people. She is my sister. Of course I want this to go well. When we turned onto the private road leading to the country club, my breath caught in my throat. The Whitmore Country Club was not just impressive, It was intimidating. The main building sat atop a gentle hill, a sprawling white structure with columns and perfectly trimmed hedges. A fountain bubbled in the circular driveway, and valets in crisp uniforms stood ready to take guests' cars. And what cars they were. Bentleys, Mercedes, BMWs, Teslas. Each vehicle probably cost more than our house. As Nathan pulled our Toyota into the queue, I felt painfully aware of how out of place we looked. "Nice place," Nathan said, casually unbothered as always. The valet opened my door with a polite smile, though I noticed his eyebrow rise slightly when he saw our car. We walked up the grand steps toward the entrance where a man in a suit was checking names against a list. "Miranda and Nathan Clark," I said. He scanned the list, found our names, and nodded. "Welcome to the Whitmore Country Club. Please proceed inside." The interior was even more stunning than the exterior. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings. Fresh flowers were everywhere, their fragrance filling the air. A string quartet played softly in the corner, and waiters circulated with trays of champagne and delicate appetizers. And there at the entrance to the main ballroom stood Brooke. She looked like a movie star. Her dress was white with silver sequins that caught the light with every movement. Her hair was swept up in an elegant updo, and diamonds sparkled at her ears and throat. She was laughing at something one of her guests had said, radiating confidence and glamour. When she spotted us, her smile flickered. Just for a moment. Then it was back, but somehow dimmer. "Oh, you made it," she said, her voice lacking any real warmth. "Of course we did," I replied, trying to ignore the sting of her lukewarm greeting. "I would not miss your engagement party." Her eyes traveled down to my dress, my shoes, my simple clutch purse. "That dress is cute," she said. "Cute. Not beautiful. Not lovely. Cute. The word you use for a child's finger painting." Before I could respond, Brooke turned and gestured to a nearby staff member. "Please show my sister to her table," she said. I assumed we would be seated with our parents, or at least somewhere we could see the festivities. But as the staff member led us through the ballroom, we kept walking. Past the beautifully decorated tables near the stage, past the area where Preston and Brooke would be sitting, past the tables filled with well-dressed guests sipping champagne. We walked until we reached the very back of the room, and then we went even further. Our table was tucked into a corner behind a massive decorative pillar. From where we stood, I could barely see the stage. The other tables in our area seemed to be where staff members were taking their breaks. "Here you are," the staff member said, pulling out a chair for me. "Table 17. I stared at the setting, unable to process what was happening. "There must be some mistake," I said. "This cannot be right." The staff member checked his list again. "No, ma'am. Table 17. This is correct." Nathan looked around, his expression unreadable. "This is literally the worst table in the room," he said quietly. "We cannot see anything from here." I felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "Not here. Not now." "I need to talk to Brooke," I said, turning to leave. "Do you want me to come with you?" Nathan asked. "No. I will be right back." I made my way through the crowd, searching for my sister. I found her near the bar, laughing with a group of women in designer dresses. "Brooke," I said, pulling her aside, "can I talk to you for a second?" She sighed like I was interrupting something important. "What is it, Miranda? I am kind of busy. Why are Nathan and I sitting back there, behind a pillar? We cannot even see the stage." Brooke's expression shifted from annoyance to something harder to read. She pulled me further away from her friends. "Look, Miranda, this is a very important event. Preston's family, his business partners, they are all here tonight." So, she said slowly, like she was explaining something to a child, "I need the right people at the visible tables, people who fit the image." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Are you saying Nathan and I do not fit the image?" Brooke's eyes traveled pointedly to my dress, to my shoes, to the purse I had thought was nice enough for tonight. "Let us be honest," she said. "You two are not exactly high society. I cannot have Preston's family see you sitting at the front and wonder why my relatives look so." She waved her hand, ordinary. The word hit me like a physical blow. "You are hiding us because we are not rich enough." Brooke did not deny it. She did not even look ashamed. "Just enjoy the food," she said. "The caterer is amazing." Then she turned and walked away, leaving me standing there alone. I walked back to our table in a daze. Nathan stood when he saw me approaching. One look at my face told him everything he needed to know. "What happened?" he asked softly. "She put us here on purpose." I could barely get the words out. "Because we are not rich enough for her fancy guests." Nathan pulled me into his arms, and I let myself lean against him for a moment. "I am sorry, sweetheart," he murmured into my hair. "She is ashamed of us, Nathan, her own sister. She actually looked at me and said we were not high society enough to sit where people could see us." Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled back and looked into my eyes. "Do you want to leave?" I thought about it. Part of me wanted nothing more than to walk out of this ridiculous party and never look back. But another part of me knew that our parents were here, that leaving would cause a scene, that it would give Brooke exactly what she wanted. "No," I said finally. "Mom and Dad are here. I do not want to ruin things." Nathan nodded. "Then we stay. And we hold our heads high. But it hurts so much." "I know." He took my hand and led me to our chair. "But remember, our worth is not determined by where we sit." We settled into our hidden corner, watching the party continue around us like we were ghosts. Occasionally someone would wander past our table, glance at us with confusion, and move on. We were invisible, exactly as Brooke intended. After a while, I could not take it anymore. I needed to talk to our parents. I found them at a table much closer to the front, though still not in the prime real estate reserved for the Whitmore family and their important friends. "Mom, did you see where Brooke put us?" I asked, unable to keep the hurt out of my voice. My mother looked uncomfortable. She would not meet my eyes. "I know, honey. I talked to her about it. And she said it was the only table left. That is a lie, and you know it." My father stepped in his voice, taking on that "let us not make waves" tone I knew so well. "Let us not make a big deal out of this. It is Brooke's special day. So I'm supposed to just accept being hidden away like something embarrassing." My mother reached out and patted my hand. "Sometimes we have to pick our battles, dear." I pulled my hand away. "You are taking her side." "We are not taking sides. We just do not want any drama." I stared at them, these people who had raised me, who were supposed to protect me, and I realized that they would always find a way to excuse Brooke's behavior, that keeping the peace mattered more to them than standing up for what was right. I walked back to my table without another word. The evening continued. Nathan and I sat in our corner picking at our food. The meal was excellent, I had to admit. The beef was perfectly cooked, the vegetables were fresh, and the wine was probably worth more per bottle than our weekly grocery bill. But it all tasted like ash in my mouth. Then came the speeches. Preston's father went first, talking about how proud he was of his son and how welcome Brooke was in their family. He mentioned her ambition, her drive, her determination to succeed. He did not mention her family at all. Then Brooke took the microphone. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," she said, her voice carrying across the ballroom. "When I met Preston, I knew my life was about to change." She paused, letting the words sink in. "He showed me what it means to live life at the highest level. No more settling for less. No more ordinary." I felt Nathan's hand tighten around mine. Ordinary. The word she had used to describe us. The word she was now broadcasting to everyone in the room. "I am so grateful to be surrounded by the most successful, most accomplished people tonight," Brooke continued. "Preston's family, his amazing friends, everyone who represents excellence." She went on for another 5 minutes. Not once did she mention our parents. Not once did she thank our family for anything. It was as if we did not exist. When she finally finished, the room erupted in applause. I sat frozen in my seat, unable to clap for a speech that had erased me entirely. As the evening progressed, I tried to make the best of it. During the cocktail hour, I ventured out of our corner and approached the bar. Maybe I could at least try to meet some people to feel less like an outcast. Near the bar, I spotted an elegant woman who looked to be in her 60s. She was dripping with diamonds and had that patrician air that comes from old money. "Hello," I said, approaching her with a smile. "I am Miranda, Brooke's sister." The woman looked me up and down, and I felt like I was being appraised and found wanting. "Oh, the sister. Yes. It is nice to meet you. Brooke mentioned you." The woman said, her tone making it clear that whatever Brooke had said had not been flattering. "You live in a small house somewhere, is that right?" "We have a lovely home in the suburbs," I said, keeping my voice steady. How quaint, the woman replied with a thin smile. Before I could respond, another woman joined us. And what does your husband do, dear? He works in technology, I said. Oh, like fixing computers. Something like that. The two women exchanged a look that spoke volumes. Then, without another word, they turned and walked away, leaving me standing there alone. I returned to our table, humiliated and angry. Nathan looked up from his phone. Everything okay? Just peachy, I muttered. We sat in silence for a while. Then I noticed Nathan was staring at something across the room. What is it? I asked. I just saw someone I know walk in, he said. Who? Richard Thornton. He is a big name in venture capital. Do you want to say hello? Nathan shook his head. No, I would rather stay with you. But there was something in his expression, a thoughtfulness that told me the wheels were turning in that brilliant mind of his. Is everything okay? I asked. Yeah, he said. I am just thinking about something. I did not press him. I had no idea that the man Nathan had spotted was about to turn the entire evening on its head. The party had been going on for about 2 hours when things started to change. Richard Thornton was a legend in the investment world. Even I had heard his name mentioned in business magazines and news articles. He was one of those people who could make or break companies with a single phone call, and apparently he was a friend of the Whitmore family. I watched from our corner as Richard made his rounds, shaking hands with Preston and his family, chatting with various important-looking guests. He was a tall man with silver hair and the kind of confident presence that comes from decades of success. At some point, Richard ended up in a conversation with Preston near the bar. I could not hear what they were saying, but Preston looked animated, gesturing excitedly about something. Later, Nathan would tell me exactly what they discussed. My fund is looking for the next big tech investment, Preston had been saying. We are always searching for the next unicorn. Richard nodded thoughtfully. You know what company I have been trying to get a meeting with for 2 years? Which one? Nexus Technologies. The founder is a genius. Built a billion-dollar company from nothing. Their software is revolutionary. I have heard of them, Preston said. Their platform is incredible. We actually use it for our data analysis. Richard sighed. If I could just get 15 minutes with the founder, I would consider my year complete. But the guy is impossible to reach. He guards his privacy like Fort Knox. Preston laughed. Good luck with that. Those tech founders are all the same. Think they are too important for the rest of us. That was when Richard turned around and froze. He was staring at something across the room. Someone. Wait, he said slowly. Is that Nathan? Nathan Clark. Before Preston could respond, Richard was already moving. He set down his champagne glass and walked briskly toward our corner table, weaving through the crowd with purpose. Preston followed, confused. You know someone here, Richard did not answer. He was too focused on reaching his destination. Nathan and I looked up as they approached. Richard's face was split into a huge grin. Nathan, he exclaimed. I cannot believe it is you. What are you doing at this party? Nathan stood and shook his hand. Richard, good to see you. I had no idea you knew the Whitmores. Richard continued, still beaming. My wife's sister is the bride-to-be, Nathan explained. Richard turned to me, and his entire demeanor shifted. Where before he had been excited to see Nathan, now he looked at me with something approaching reverence. You are Nathan Clark's wife, he said. I am honored to meet you. Truly honored. I glanced at Nathan, utterly confused. I am sorry. Do you two know each other? Richard laughed like I had told the funniest joke he had ever heard. Know each other. Your husband is the founder of Nexus Technologies, the most innovative tech company in the country. I have been trying to get a meeting with him for 2 years. I blinked. I knew about Nathan's company, of course, but I had never heard anyone talk about it with such awe. Preston was still standing there, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and something that looked like horror. Wait, he said. Nathan Clark. The Nathan Clark, the one and only, Richard confirmed. Preston stared at Nathan, at his simple gray suit, at the table hidden behind a pillar, at everything he had dismissed and overlooked. But you said you work in tech, Preston stammered. I do work in tech, Nathan replied calmly. I never said I just fix computers. Preston's face had gone pale. Your company is worth, Forbes said. I do not really pay attention to those numbers, Nathan said with a modest shrug. Richard was practically bouncing with excitement. "I have been trying to schedule a meeting with you for 2 years. Your assistant keeps saying you are busy." "I am quite busy," Nathan admitted. "But mostly, I just prefer keeping a low profile." Preston seemed to be doing mental calculations, and whatever he was adding up was making him look increasingly ill. "Oh my God," he said. "My fund. We use your software for our analysis. We have been using Nexus for 3 years. You are our biggest vendor." Nathan smiled pleasantly. "I know." Within minutes, word had spread through the ballroom. People who had walked past our table without a second glance were now craning their necks to see us. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Nathan Clark, the tech billionaire. He is here. At this party, where that guy in the corner. Wait, he is married to Brooke's sister." Suddenly, our hidden table behind the pillar was the most interesting spot in the room. People began drifting toward us. Richard was making introductions, singing Nathan's praises to anyone who would listen. "Everyone, do you know who this is?" Richard announced to a growing crowd. "Nathan Clark, founder of Nexus Technologies, one of the most brilliant minds in the tech industry." The same people who had ignored us all evening were now pushing forward to shake Nathan's hand. Business cards appeared out of nowhere. People who had looked at me with disdain were suddenly complimenting my dress. And then Constance Whitmore appeared. Preston's mother, the woman who had dismissed me so coldly at the bar, was now approaching with a completely different expression. Gone was the condescension. In its place was something almost desperate. "Mr. Clark," she said breathlessly, "I do not believe we have been properly introduced. I am Constance Whitmore, Preston's mother." Nathan took her hand politely. "We actually met briefly earlier, through Miranda." Constance's face flushed red. She clearly remembered how she had treated me, how she had called our home quaint and walked away like I was not worth her time. "Oh," she said weakly. "Yes, of course. How lovely to see you again." The irony was not lost on anyone. Brooke was across the room when she heard Nathan's name ripple through the crowd. She had been chatting with a group of her friends, basking in the glow of her perfect party. But something in the air had shifted. People were moving, whispering, looking toward the back of the ballroom. "What is going on over there?" she asked. One of her friends, a woman named Ashley, leaned in with wide eyes. "Apparently your brother-in-law is some kind of tech billionaire," she said. Brooke laughed. "What? That is ridiculous. Nathan is just a regular." But her voice trailed off as she looked toward our table. Even from across the room she could see the crowd that had gathered. She could see Preston shaking Nathan's hand with an expression of desperate respect. She could see his mother, the formidable Constance Whitmore, practically fawning over my husband. "This cannot be right," Brooke whispered. She pushed through the crowd until she reached our table. Her face was white. Her hands were trembling. Preston spotted her and grabbed her arm excitedly. "Brooke, why did you not tell me your brother-in-law is Nathan Clark? I did not know," she stammered. "Did not know. He is your sister's husband?" Brooke looked at Nathan, then at me, then back at Nathan. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Richard, who was still riding high on his excitement, chimed in. "I have to ask, why were Nathan and Miranda sitting all the way back here? I almost did not see them." Silence fell over the group. Preston turned to Brooke, his brow furrowed. "Yeah," he said slowly. "Why were they at this table?" Brooke's face cycled through several emotions. Panic, shame, the desperate search for an excuse. "There was a mix-up," she finally said, "with the seating chart. I had been silent through most of this, watching the scene unfold, but something inside me snapped. There was no mix-up." I said, my voice clear and steady. "Brooke put us here on purpose," Miranda Brooke said warningly. But I was done being quiet, done letting her have this one. She said we were not rich enough to sit with the important guests. She was ashamed of us. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Preston stared at Brooke with a mix of horror and disbelief. "Is that true?" he demanded. Brooke did not answer. She did not need to. Her silence spoke volumes. Constance Whitmore leaned over to her husband. "She hit a billionaire's wife at the back table," the woman whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "because she thought they were poor." Nathan, who had been watching everything with his characteristic calm, raised his hand. "I think there has been enough excitement for one evening," he said. His voice was not loud, but it carried authority. Everyone fell silent. Miranda and I have always lived simply, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. We do not measure people's worth by their bank accounts. Apparently not everyone shares that value. He looked directly at Brooke, and for the first time all evening, she seemed to truly see him. Brooke, Nathan continued, I have always respected you as my wife's sister. I never judged you for your ambitions. But tonight, you hurt Miranda deeply, and that I cannot overlook. Brooke's lower lip trembled. She looked like she wanted to say something, but the words would not come. Nathan turned to Preston next. Preston, you seem like a decent guy. I hope you and Brooke figure things out. Then he addressed Richard. As for that partnership you mentioned, I will have my team reach out. Eventually. Richard's face lit up with hope. However, Nathan added, I tend to be very careful about who I do business with. I prefer people who treat others with basic decency, regardless of their financial status. The implication was clear. Preston swallowed hard. In the crowd, our parents had finally made their way forward. My mother looked stricken, finally understanding the magnitude of what had happened. She pushed through to reach me, pulling me into a hug. Sweetheart, I am so sorry, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I did not know. I pulled back slightly. Did not know Nathan was rich, I asked, or did not know that Brooke treated me terribly. My mother could not meet my eyes. My father stepped in looking more subdued than I had ever seen him. We should have protected you, he admitted, no matter who Nathan turned out to be. Yes, I said simply. You should have, but you did not. Nathan came to my side and took my hand. We should go, he said gently. We have dinner reservations. Constance Whitmore, still trying to salvage something from the evening, perked up. Where are you dining tonight? She asked, her voice dripping with false friendliness. Nathan mentioned the name of an exclusive restaurant in the city, one with a waiting list that stretched for years. Oh, Constance exclaimed. How did you get a reservation there? It is nearly impossible to book. Nathan smiled pleasantly. I own it, he said. Then he led me through the stunned crowd toward the exit. We were almost at the door when I heard footsteps behind us. Hurried, desperate. Miranda, wait. I stopped but did not turn around. I knew that voice. Brooke caught up to us slightly out of breath. Her perfect makeup was starting to smudge and her eyes were red-rimmed. I am so sorry, she said. I did not know. I finally turned to face her. Did not know Nathan was rich? Or did not know that treating your sister like garbage was wrong? Both, she admitted. I was stupid. I was so focused on impressing everyone that I... Miranda, she continued, her voice breaking, I will make it up to you. I promise. I looked at my sister. This woman I had loved my whole life. This woman who had spent years making me feel less than. This woman who had hidden me away because I did not fit her image of success. This is not about making it up, I said quietly. This is about who you are. Please, do not let this ruin our relationship. I took a deep breath. You ruined it, Brooke. The moment you decided I was not good enough to be seen. Her face crumpled. Nathan opened the car door for me and I slid inside. As he walked around to the driver's side, Brooke stood in the parking lot watching us. The last thing I saw before we drove away was my sister standing alone under the elegant lights of the Whitmore Country Club, her perfect world crumbling around her. The drive home was quiet at first. Nathan kept his eyes on the road, giving me space to process everything that had happened. Finally, about halfway home, he reached over and took my hand. Are you okay? He asked softly. I thought about the question. Really thought about it. I do not know, I admitted. Part of me feels vindicated, like finally everyone saw the truth about how Brooke treats me. But part of me just feels sad. That is understandable. We drove in silence for another few minutes. Then something that had been nagging at me finally surfaced. Nathan, why did you never tell anyone about Nexus? I knew we liked keeping things private, but even your own in-laws had no idea. He considered the question carefully before answering. Because I wanted people to like me for who I am, he said, not for what I have. When people find out you have money, everything changes. They treat you differently. They want things from you. I did not want that. And you never cared that Brooke looked down on us. Nathan shook his head. Her opinion never mattered to me. Only yours does. I felt tears welling up in my eyes again, but this time they were different. These were tears of relief, of gratitude, of overwhelming love for this man who valued character over currency. "I love you," I whispered. "I love you too," he replied. "Always have, always will." When we got home, I kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto our comfortable old couch. Our small living room with its mismatched furniture and family photos suddenly felt like the most beautiful place in the world. Over the next few days, my phone became a constant source of irritation. Brooke called 10 times a day. I let every call go to voicemail. Our parents tried to act as mediators, suggesting family dinners and heart-to-heart talks. I was not ready. Preston sent Nathan several messages trying to set up business meetings. Nathan politely declined. He said he needed time to evaluate whether that relationship was worth pursuing. I spent those days in a strange emotional limbo, angry and hurt, but also somehow lighter. For years I had carried the weight of Brooke's disapproval, always trying to earn her respect, always falling short. Now that weight was gone. After a week, I finally agreed to take one of Brooke's calls. "Miranda, thank God," she said when I answered. "I have been going crazy. What do you want?" "Brooke." There was a pause. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller than I had ever heard it. "I have been doing a lot of thinking," she said. "Have you?" I realized I have been a terrible sister, not just at the party, for years, maybe our whole lives. I did not respond, waiting for her to continue. "I was so obsessed with status," she went on. "With success, with proving that I was better. I forgot what really matters. I pushed away the people who actually loved me." "Is that why you are apologizing?" I asked. "Because you embarrassed Preston in front of important people?" The line was silent for a moment. At first maybe she admitted, but then I really thought about it. "You have always been there for me, Miranda, even when I did not deserve it. And I treated you like you were less than, like you did not matter." I felt tears pricking my eyes, but I was not ready to let go of my hurt just yet. Brooke continued, "I am not asking for forgiveness. I know I do not deserve that. I just want you to know that I am sorry. Really, truly sorry." I let her words hang in the air. "Brooke," I said finally, "I have spent my whole life being your soft landing, always forgiving, always letting things go, telling myself it was okay because you were my sister." "I know," she whispered, "but I cannot do that anymore. It is not healthy. Not for me, and honestly not for you either. I understand." "I forgive you," I said, and I meant it. "But I need distance. I need time to heal. And you need to figure out who you are when you are not competing with everyone around you." "How long?" she asked, her voice breaking. "I do not know. Maybe a long time. Maybe forever. But right now, this is what I need." "Okay," she said softly. "I will wait, however long it takes." We ended the call, and I sat there for a while feeling the finality of the moment. The sister I had grown up with fought with love despite everything. We might never have the relationship I once hoped for, but maybe that was okay. 6 months have passed since that engagement party. Brooke and Preston did get married, though I heard it was a smaller affair than originally planned. Several of Preston's business contacts had suddenly become unavailable. Richard Thornton, who had once been so eager to connect with the Whitmores, became conveniently busy whenever Preston called. Preston never forgot that Brooke had almost cost him the business opportunity of a lifetime. Their relationship, from what I hear, has been strained. When you build something on a foundation of status and money, it turns out there is not much left when those things are threatened. Our parents have started coming around more. They show up with homemade dinners and offers to help in the garden. They no longer compare me to Brooke, no longer ask why I cannot be more like her. I think they finally saw the truth about both their daughters, and they are trying to make amends. I am letting them, slowly. Nathan eventually did agree to meet with Richard. They started a partnership that has been beneficial for both of them, but Nathan made his expectations clear from the start. He only works with people who treat others with respect, regardless of their wealth or status. As for me, I am still doing graphic design. I still drive our old Camry. We still live in our small house with the porch swing and the flower garden. Because happiness was never about the size of your bank account or the neighborhood you live in. It is about who you come home to at the end of the day. It is about being loved for who you are, not what you have. Brooke spent years chasing an image of success, only to discover that the people she was trying to impress did not actually care about her. They cared about what she could offer them. And Nathan, with all his success, never once made anyone feel small. He treats the waiter at our local diner with the same respect he shows to billionaire investors. That is the difference between being rich and being wealthy. One is about money, the other is about character. I would rather be married to a kind man in a small house than a cruel one in a mansion, any day of the week. So if you have ever been made to feel less than by your own family, if you have ever been hidden away because you did not fit someone's image of success, if you have ever been judged for not having enough, remember this. The people who truly matter see your worth. They see you for who you are, not what you own. And sometimes the best revenge is not exposing someone or humiliating them in front of their friends. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Stay true to yourself. The right people will find you. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been underestimated by someone close to you? Have you ever been judged for not being rich or successful enough? What happened when they found out the truth about you? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and your experience might help someone else who is going through the same thing. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It really does help more people find these videos. And if you are not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe and tap that notification bell so you do not miss future stories. Also, if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, please share this video with them. You never know who might be feeling invisible right now, who might need a reminder that they are worthy exactly as they are. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Your support means more than you know. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Remember that your worth is not measured in dollars and cents. And always, always be kind to others. You never know what someone is carrying with them, and you never know who they might turn out to be.